9, consistency of tone. During this lesson, we're going to be bringing together some of the techniques we've covered in previous lessons, such as breath flow and control, relaxation of the body, including the neck, throat, jaw, and tongue. And we're also going to learn how to sing vowels and consonants in a certain way so that the legato, or smooth and connected line you create, is not interfered with. So let's start with a brief look at how an inconsistent flow of breath can affect your tone. For example, if you find that your voice is wavering on the longer held notes like this, la, then you're most likely exhaling with an inconsistent breath flow. This can happen when you're not entirely focused on controlling the amount of air that's exiting your body. It's important to remember that the amount of air that's passing through your vocal cords directly affects the quality and evenness of the tone you're producing. So if you're finding that the tone is shaky or inconsistent in dynamic volume or quality, it could be that you're letting your ribs drop, which in different registers will have different effects. For instance, too much air on the top notes results in a breathy tone, which may be inconsistent with the quality of tone you're producing in your lower register. Remember, those high notes need less air. Also on the higher notes, for example, you may find that due to your lack of breath at the end of the phrase, you begin to lose the energy required to keep you up there, and you may begin to sing flat. That's just one example of not pacing your breath so that it's consistent right through to the end of the phrase. In the lower register, for instance, you may find that the tone sounds quieter or breathier at the end of the phrase or sentence you're singing compared to the beginning of the phrase. This is where your 5 seconds exercise proves to be a really simple but very, very powerful tool, because it teaches you to pace your breath so that you're exhaling evenly right to the end of the 5-second mark, or in the context of a song, right through until the end of the phrase. All right, in previous lessons, you've heard me encourage you to sing with a consistent flow of breath while you're singing various different solfege words. We talked about this during the do, do, so, mi, do exercise in the range extension lesson. For example, when you had to join the bottom note to the top note without pausing before each of the solfege words. The way you attack or articulate your consonants can also interrupt the flow of breath, especially if you're focusing on the individual words rather than on the phrase as a whole. So we're going to cover that during this lesson also. All right, inconsistent tone quality can also be the result of not maintaining good chord closure after the initial onset of tone, or in other words, not keeping your chords closed after the beginning or commencement of your vocal sound. I'll give you an example of an exercise that uses the the NG and the E sound, where I get great chord closure on the NG sound, but then I let the chords blow apart when I sing the E sound. It goes like this. Did you hear how the tone changed in clarity and in quality when I went to the E sound? The NG was nice and clear and resonant because I had my chords closed, while the E sound was breathy and less resonant due to the fact that I'd let my chords blow apart. So another cause of inconsistent tone is, of course, tension. Tension in the neck or throat muscles can also cause the muscles to shake, much like they do when you're trying to hold your arms out from your body for long periods of time. As the muscles fatigue, they begin to shake. And of course, if we're talking about the muscles that surround your voice box, such as the neck, throat, tongue, and jaw muscles, which, as we know, when they're tense, they affect the correct vocal muscles, then the shaking caused from that tension and fatigue will directly affect the evenness or consistency of your vocal tone. And just on that note, if you are consistently working through tension in those areas, allow your body time to go through a transitional period where those muscles are learning to perform in new ways. For instance, if you've been singing with tension for long enough that it's become a habit, both mentally and physically, there's going to be some conflict that goes on when you introduce a new technique that requires those muscles to relax. Most often, when you begin introducing these new techniques, your brain is saying, relax, while your muscles are still holding on to the memory that they have to be tense. So there may be this little tug of war going on during this transitional period where your voice is shaky due to that. But don't let it affect your understanding that with time and practice, you will achieve the results you're after. So don't give up. Keep focused and continue implementing the correct techniques over and over that will help you free up your voice from tension. The amazing thing about your body is that it will quickly develop a muscular memory for things that you do repeatedly. This is natural, which is great. And it's also wonderful because it means that you can program and reprogram your body to learn new techniques and actions whenever and wherever necessary, just by doing things repetitively. That's why regular and consistent practice is so essential to your vocal development. All right, so weak placement is another cause of inconsistent tone. Ultimately, when we're singing, all vowels should be resonating at the front of the face, whether that be in our lower jaw for the lower notes or at the top of our heads when we sing the high notes, which is when we apply more of the forward focus technique we talked about during the last lesson on range extension. If only some of your vowels are resonating or vibrating at the front of your face and head and others aren't, there's a noticeable difference in the quality of sound that you produce, and the sound simply won't carry or project evenly and efficiently. In a moment, we're going to have a look at an exercise that uses various different vowel sounds to expose the vowels which are resonating clearly for you and those that aren't. All right, now that we've covered the causes of inconsistency in your vocal tone, let's get straight into exercise 1 and take a look at how we can steady our placement to create a more consistent tone while we're singing. In this first exercise, we're going to sing on sustained vowels such as a, e, o, and u to expose any inconsistency in our placement. But before we go into this exercise, let's just say those vowels and take notice of where we can feel those sounds in our mouth and face. As you say the vowels, make sure you say them legato, i.e. smooth and connected, because this makes it easier to tune into the subtle variations in placement between each vowel sound. Ready? And a, e, o, u. And again, this time with your eyes closed. And a, e, o, u. Did you feel how some of those sounds could be felt at the back of your mouth or more in the throat area, like a, and o? And some of them seem to sit more forward in the lip area and at the front of your face, like e and u. Let's try it again, and this time really tune in to the sensations that each vowel creates. We'll do it a bit slower. And a, e, o, u. Okay, if you can't feel the difference between the placement or location of each vowel, don't worry. This could be the very first time you've ever focused on it. In time though, you'll become more sensitive to the sensations and vibrations that occur in your body as a result of the place of resonance or placement of the sound you make, and you'll be better able to detect any subtle differences in placement or physical location. I highly recommend that you spend some time with this from now on, though, on a regular basis, because knowing where the sound or resonance is occurring can greatly assist you in making sure that all your vowels are resonating efficiently and evenly. Okay, so back to our vowels. Most commonly, the vowels we're working on will sit, vibrate, or resonate in various different areas of the mouth and face. Your aim during this exercise is to get them all resonating or vibrating on the edge of your lips and at the front of your face. For example, I'm going to choose the E vowel, which is naturally a more forward resonating vowel, meaning that it sits more naturally in the front of the face. And then I'll line it up alongside the R vowel without me deliberately placing the sound in any particular area of my face, because the R vowel commonly sits more towards the back of the mouth. And I'll show you the difference in the quality or resonance between the two sounds. I'll sing both vowels legato, starting with E, and then I'll slowly transition to the R vowel. So listen out for the differences in quality. Okay, here I go. Notice how the E sound was quite forward, but when I sang the R sound, it disappeared slightly or became less intense. In actual fact, when I sang the R sound, I let my vocal cords blow apart, and I also didn't deliberately focus the R sound into the front of my face. Our aim during this first exercise is to get all of the vowels R, E, O, and U resonating in the front of the face. So instead of something like this, we want to have all the vowels sitting nice and forward, or in other words, resonating in the bones at the front of our faces, like our front teeth, cheeks, and nose, like this. There are a few things we can do to help us achieve this. Number one, make sure you're achieving sufficient cord closure. If you need to review this, go back to lesson 6 and go through a few of the exercises there. Number two, we need to be focusing the tone forward and looking for the feeling place of the sound or resonance, much like the technique we used in the lesson on range extension. You need to focus the tone into the front of your face by imagining that the sound is moving outward in front of you. You also need to look for and feel the vibration or buzzing sensation in the front area of your face, much like you can feel it when you sing the sound mmm. You can really feel that sensation on the front of your face. Try it. Mmm. And again, mmm. Make sure, number 3, make sure you're not forcing or using the muscles in your neck and throat in an attempt to control the sound or make it big and beefy, because doing this will cause you to feel the tone mostly in the throat area, which is not where our focus needs to be. Number 4, make sure that your tongue, lips, jaw, throat, and neck are all relaxed along with the rest of your body. And lastly, be patient with yourself whilst you learn how to gain consistency between the quality of your vowel sounds. This is a tricky technique, and it's one that requires sensitivity to subtle variations in the intensity of the vibration each vowel creates. So take your time and practice consistently. So let's get into it, shall we? Okay, in this first exercise, we're only going to sing one vowel at a time. The reason for this is so that you can get some focused practice on placing the resonance of each vowel in the front of the face. There are many different ways to say each vowel, and each variation on any given vowel will create a slightly different placement. Therefore, if you and I can both sing on the Italian vowel sounds, we're assured of being on the same page, so to speak. Okay, you can see our vowel sounds all lined up on the monitor. Let's say them through together now, only this time I'll demonstrate and you repeat after me. Because you and I possibly have different accents or speak different languages, the way we say our vowels could be slightly different. The Italian vowels are quite rounded and are really great for maintaining the relaxed position of your tongue and jaw, and they'll also help to keep the larynx seated, which will help with keeping the tone out of the throat and neck areas. So I'll begin with the R sound. You repeat after me, and then I'll move through the remaining 4 vowels. Ready? And ah, e, I, O, U. Okay, let's try them out in this first exercise for lesson 9. In this next exercise, we're going to sing all 5 vowels on one breath to further expose which vowels may be losing focus or are lacking in forward placement. The other benefit of this exercise is that it will expose any inconsistency in your breath flow. Remember, if you can hear the tone wavering or if you notice that it's a little shaky, it's possible that you're exhaling or singing with an inconsistent flow of breath. So remember to keep your ribs suspended and only allow the lower abdominal area to contract. Keep your chest buoyant and be sure to take the breath low into the body. Remember that pacing your breath, especially on exhalation, is paramount when it comes to singing with a consistent tone. Fluctuations in the amount of breath passing through the vocal cords can cause the tone to waver like this. La. So if you need to pause the video now and practice a few cycles of your 5 seconds exercise to bring you back into sync with pacing your breath, you can do that now. It's also important to transition slowly and evenly between each of the vowel sounds. Sudden or abrupt changes in your jaw position like this I-E-I-O can cause displacement of the tone and interrupt the flow of your breath. So make sure you sing this exercise legato. Keep the tone clear and even and keep that flow of breath going steadily. When you're ready, this is exercise number 2, flowing vowels. Feel all the vowels on your lips. Nice gentle transitions. In this exercise, we're going to be looking a little more closely at phrasing. In previous lessons, I've encouraged you to sing legato. Now, I want to say here that not every song you sing is going to require that you do that. However, every song you sing is made up of phrases or sentences that need to be sung in such a way that the words and melody flow. To achieve a sense of musicality and momentum during any given phrase, it's important to focus on the phrase as a whole rather than on the individual words. For example, if I'm focusing on each individual word in a phrase from the song Hallelujah, which is one of the songs included in this program, it's going to sound like this. It goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. Okay, did you hear how the melody was disjointed and choppy? This is because I'm constantly interrupting my breath flow and placing too much emphasis on the consonants rather than the vowels, which carry the sound. What I need to do instead is join all the words together by maintaining a consistent flow of breath, and instead of focusing on each individual word, I'm going to see the phrase as one long note. I'm going to demonstrate what this sounds like, and I'm going to use my hand as a visual guide for the sound going out continuously in front of me. It goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. Okay, notice how the sound was more continuous and how there was more flow to the words I was singing. Remember, it's the vowels that carry our sound. So if they're being abruptly interrupted by the consonants, the consistency of my vocal sound is going to be greatly affected. So during this next exercise, we're going to be singing our 5 Italian vowel sounds again, only this time we're going to precede each one of them with a consonant, in this case the M. Okay? The idea is to articulate the consonant well enough so that it can be heard, but not so much that it interrupts your vocal line. When you sing, you need to elongate your vowels as much as you can and articulate your consonants as briefly as you can so as to keep that vocal line and the momentum of the phrase going. In other words, carry the vowel right through to the end of the note and then briefly drop the consonant right in at the point of transition from one word to the next. Okay, so let's do it. This is exercise 3, vowels. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. See it in front. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. 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 All relaxed. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. Keep that sound going. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. 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 Just drop that consonant in. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. Keep those vowels going. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. Ma, me, mi, mo, mu. In this exercise, we're going to be focusing on maintaining our consistency of tone when singing phrases that have high notes in them. And we're going to use a simple technique that helps us gain momentum so that as we approach those high notes, we keep the breath flowing evenly and consistently. Often, if we know that there's a high note coming up that we're a little anxious about, this can cause us to hesitate. And when we hesitate, our body can often tense up, causing, of course, constriction in the throat area and interrupting or even momentarily stopping the flow of breath. When this happens, the constriction in the throat area can cause us to reach up to the high note rather than lean into it, as we talked about in the lesson on range extension. So we're going to get a little more physical here and create momentum in the body to assist with our vocal momentum. In this exercise, we're going to be singing from a lower note and then jumping up to a higher note and back down again. But as we're about to sing the higher note, we're going to step forward like this. Do, do, do. Okay, I'll do that again. Do, do, do. What this does is send a message to the brain and body to move forward. Much like the concept we used in the range extension lesson of leaning into the sound rather than reaching or lifting up to it, this physical movement forward encourages the voice to continue and move forward also. In other words, rather than our hesitation stopping the breath flow and vocal sound, we're now creating momentum which encourages the breath flow and vocal sound to maintain its consistency in movement. So let's try this out together. Do, do, do. Keep it continuous. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. And drop the jaw. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Build your energy up. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Well, that brings lesson 9 on consistency of tone to an end. The only way to develop consistency of tone is through consistent practice. Clarity of tone, placement, momentum, breath control, and use of the correct vocal muscles are areas that require special attention when it comes to the evenness and reliability of your vocal tone. Remember, you don't have to get it all done today. What you've covered in this lesson alone will count for a lot in your overall vocal development. The key is to take your development one step at a time. The beauty of this lesson is that no matter what area of vocal technique you're working on, you can implement the strategies we've covered today in every one of those areas. For example, you can use the momentum exercise where we stepped forward when we sang higher notes when you're working through the lesson on range extension. You can use the idea of line and consistent breath flow in just about every exercise that you work on. You can use the strategy of vowel placement to assist with your projection and range extension and clarity of tone, for example. But whatever you're practicing, be consistent. Remember, it is easy to form new habits. All you need to do is repeat the action consistently and on a regular basis. It's not rocket science, it's singing. And you were born to do it. This is Ray Henry, and happy singing.